I wonder if you feel the way I do, that things just aren't the way they used to be. Something in our world has really changed. It's almost like someone's changed the rules of the game, but they haven't told us when those rules take effect or what those rules are, or even how to play the game anymore. It's really quite confusing, I've found. Maybe you feel the same way too. So, what is it that's changed? What's happened here? Well, we used to be able to have disagreements with people, didn't we? We used to be able to have arguments, discussions, debate, where people held opposing views, differing opinions. And we could kick that can around across a dinner table or in a cafe. And we could part as friends at the end of it, even though we didn't agree. That's not where we are anymore as a culture, is it? We just don't do that. Anybody who thinks differently to us is evil. The world that we live in is divided between us and them. And whatever political spectrum you happen to ascribe to, we just can't brook the idea of having friendships or relationships with people on the other side of the aisle. We can't tolerate their presence, and let alone hear their ideas. Absolutely not. That's offensive and triggering. They must be cancelled. They must be disposed of. They must be cut off at the knees. They must be deplatformed, demonetized, debanked, demonized. The world that we live in is incredibly divisive. How did we get here? How did we get to this place where our culture is so hostile? Well, I think there are a number of different things that we can look to suggest how we ended up where we are, and a number of different lines that we could explore. But there's one that I want to explore with you today that I think we really need to understand if we're to get a handle on what's going on in our time. And particularly as Christians, as we look to the day in which we live, the culture in which we find ourselves, we want to reach it with the gospel of Jesus Christ. But in order to do that, we've got to rightly diagnose the problems, rightly diagnose the symptoms that we're seeing, so we can rightly apply the healing balm of the gospel where it's so desperately needed. I think our discussion today really needs to start with the Enlightenment. Now, you might be wondering what the Enlightenment is. Well, it's a period in time, a movement within our culture that could be defined as faith in reason alone. Faith in reason alone. Now, in Enlightenment thinking, everything that's known has to pass through the reason. We need to arrive at our knowledge by application of reason and evidence, and particularly the reason and evidence that's supplied through the fields of science and mathematics. Now, something happens when you do that, when everything that can be known needs to be justified and proven through science and mathematics. You immediately lock yourself into a very naturalistic worldview. We are simply products of nature. There's no supernatural realm. It's just this world. It's just secular. So we lock ourselves into this naturalistic worldview. But when you lock yourself into a naturalistic worldview, you also lock out some very important concepts, such as love, for example, meaning, purpose, morality, good and evil, right and wrong. None of these things can be proven through science or mathematics. There is no maths that you can apply to love. There is no science that will be applied to ethics and morality to tell you what is in fact right or wrong in any objective sense. These things stand outside of reason. They belong to a different category entirely. So we've locked ourselves into this naturalistic worldview, but we find we need these things. We need meaning. We need love as human beings. We need morality, right and wrong, good and evil in our lives. These are fundamentals of our existence as human beings and a fundamental part of what we are as humans, not just our experience of life. But we're locked into this naturalistic worldview that doesn't allow for any of these things. But we beat and bloody our fists upon this cage, needing meaning, needing love, needing purpose, needing morality, and yet having no resources at our disposal in order to establish these things. So what are we told to do? Well, the worldview that we've come from tells us that we need to imagine these things. We need to create them for ourselves. We need to conjure them up as an act of wish fulfillment and draw upon those things that we create for ourselves in order to give life meaning and purpose. That's the way things were. People were content to draw upon those things that they imagined or those ideas that they held in the upper story, those things that weren't provable by science or mathematics. We drew from those things in order to give life meaning and to make life livable, in fact. And for a long time, people were content to do that. That's not the case anymore. That's not where we are as a culture anymore. Where we are as a culture is that place of the upper story, that place where we derive our meaning, that place of story, that place of ideology, that place of religion and faith, that now has gone to war against the lower story of the cage, the naturalistic cage. The upper story of ideology has gone to war against the naturalistic cage of facts, data, information, science, and mathematics. The ideology must win out. The ideology must win. These ideas have come to us largely through Marxism, actually, where the patronos, the party spirit, the party ideal, the party ideology must win out at all costs. The facts be damned. That's where we are. The ideology has gone to war against the lower story. The upper story has gone to war against the lower story in order to overcome it, subdue it, and eventually destroy it. How do we see that play out? Well, we see that play out in science, don't we? Where the facts of biology no longer matter. The ideology must trump the facts. The upper story going to war against the lower story in order to destroy it. We see it in mathematics. 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore in our current Western climate. 2 plus 2 equals whatever the indigenous culture says it does. And so, again, the ideology has gone to war against the facts in order to overcome it, subdue it, and eventually destroy it. The ideology must win out at all costs. We see this in every area of life. The upper story at war against the lower story. This is what's different. This is what's changed. There is a battle taking place, a battle for reality, a battle for who gets to define what reality is, what constitutes reality, and what part we play within it. That's the real war that we're experiencing now in our culture. Well, what does the Christian faith have to say about this? Well, the Christian faith has something much greater, actually, to offer us. The Christian faith isn't a two-tiered system of the upper story and the lower story of facts, data, information, science, mathematics, and the upper story of story and love and meaning and purpose and ideology and faith and reason. All of these things, this two-tiered system is one that is foreign to the Christian worldview. In the Christian worldview, we live in one story, the story that God is telling. And the facts, data, and the information rightly understood support and continue the narrative that God is weaving through what He has made and through our experience in it. Through us, actually. We are the poem that He is writing. We are the story that He is telling. We are His poema, as it says in Ephesians chapter 2, I believe. We are His workmanship. And so the true call of the Christian faith isn't to defend your upper story beliefs or defend your lower story interpretation of facts, data, and information. That's not primarily the ideal. The ideal is actually to enter into the one story. And the wonderful thing, folks, the incredible thing, is that the creator, the writer, the author, the master artist has entered into the story to become one with it and to become part of it. You see, every story that we tell in the West is just a reflection of the true story. If you think of the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell, you see it in Star Wars, for example, the no one from nowhere becomes something for everyone. That's just a reflection of the true story, the big story, the one story, where the carpenter becomes the king. The call of the Christian faith is to see all of reality through one lens and to take part in the one true story that God is telling. The reality that He has woven by the power of His word. Because He is love, it says. And so we would expect the story that He has told, the story that He is telling, to be woven with love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. In this we know that God loves us. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. It all makes sense in the big story. The call of the Christian faith is to enter into that story, to find your place, your purpose, your meaning, your identity in his story, to take your place within him. It's to come into contact, into relationship with the one who claims to be the author of all of life, the one who says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Come to true reality. Come to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, the one for whom and through whom and to whom are all things. Everything, in fact, was created for him. I have found that in my experience, in my life, that story has given me great meaning and great purpose. And I believe that it would do the same for you. Do you know him today? Would you like to know him today? Would you like to come into the story woven by the Creator, the Master Artist? There you will find life. There you will find hope. There you will find love. Just a thought.